Yeah, what? Okay. I've got some stuff to say, and it's gonna be stupid. No.
Listen, people, I got some stuff to say.
The stuff that I have to say is the stupidest stuff.
Idle thumbs. Games, video 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 games, video. Video games.
It's June 12th, 2013.
This is Idle Thumbs 110. I'm Chris Ramo.
I'm Jake Rodkin.
And I'm Nick Brecken.
And we're so excited to be on this podcast this week. Oh, also, sorry, before we even talk about that, we should mention that
Sean Vanneman is
Sean's not here.
Sean is down in LA this week. And none of the rest of us are.
Yeah.
So let's have our E3 2013 episode of Idle Thumbs, the video game podcast for video game enthusiasts.
Yeah.
Who don't attend major industry trade shows despite being a journalistic outlet.
Feels really weird not to be there, actually.
Yeah, it does.
After having been there for maybe
Well, it doesn't-
4 or 5 years in a row. 5 years? Yeah.
That's actually not the part that feels weird to me, but that makes sense because I actually at this point have not gone for about 4 years.
Yeah.
I think
And-
my last E3 was 06.
Oh,
I
wow.
went 2000 through 2006. I did 7 years straight, and then I didn't go anymore.
Yeah.
I went until 2000. I want to say like 9, maybe 2008 might have actually been my last one. I can't remember.
Weird.
Probably 9.
Hmm.
Yeah, but the farther I get from the last time I went to E3, the less I find myself compelled to notice anything about E3. Like, I didn't watch it. You know, it's just interesting. I didn't watch any of the stuff this year.
I didn't watch any of it, but I read a lot of stuff. I'm perhaps the worst person in the group in that the one thing that I did watch this week was the Apple Worldwide Developers Conference keynote. So I watched the unveil of iOS 7 and all that stuff.
iOS 7 and
Whatever.
Yeah.
I have been an Apple person since I was a tiny child and worked there for a while, and I can't not watch that shit. But
You worked at Apple as a tiny child.
no, like the first computer that I had was an Apple II, and then I used Macintoshes all the way up through now, basically, except
yeah.
at work.
Yeah.
But yeah, that has nothing to do with anything other
No.
than the gaming industry was set ablaze when Ridiculous Fishing won an Apple Developers Choice Award at WWDC. So that's what we're talking about this week. Thanks for listening, everyone.
Wait, was that your thing that you wanted to bring up?
No. So
yeah, I'm still like...
I followed the Microsoft press conference a little bit, but that was the one that I saw the least of. I followed the Sony stuff when the internet just went, whoa, they're doing all this crazy shit. And then I also didn't really pay much attention to the Nintendo one. But the disaster for me personally is the Nintendo one. Because the other thing that I'm a child about, second to Apple, is secret, usually latent, but occasionally not latent Nintendo fanboyism. So
Oh yeah,
this is,
I feel like I've been party to the decline of your Nintendo fanboyism.
yes. But here's the disaster of what happened in the last couple of days is stupid stuff that I complain about all the time, being Nintendo doing the same exact thing over and over and over again, they now revealed the two stupid repeated things for the two things that I actually care about, which is
What is
Super
that? Smash Brothers is one of them, clearly.
and Super Mario 3D World, and which I did not give a fuck about on the 3DS.
Yeah.
But seeing that stupid video of it running in HD, where it's that sort of Super
I haven't
Mario
seen this.
Super
I
Mario
should
3D
watch this.
Land seems like it's like taking the Mario platforming stuff and then doing a sort of 2.5D. I mean, it's real 3D, but it looks kind of like it's a vaguely isometric presentation, but it's still a platformer and it's cooperative. So it looks like it kind of has the shaders and color palette and stuff of Super Mario Galaxy, but with a straight platforming mechanic, but with a camera more akin to the sort of like handheld Zelda games. And it's 4-player co-op like New Super Mario Brothers. I actually posted a stupid tweet about this morning, which no one understood, but I watched the trailer because everyone said, oh, Super Mario 2, oh, Mario RPG. But the trailer, for the first time that I've actually seen, has Princess Peach in it in a cooperative experience with Mario, which is dumb, but it's like, it was
Why is
actually
that
like...
dumb? Oh, you just dumb that it's the
it's just
first
a dumb
time?
thing
Like-
to like bring up as a cool thing. But seeing Mario and Princess Peach side by side in a video game on the same screen using the same player verbs to cooperate together to accomplish the same goals had weird meaning for me, which is fucking stupid. But like,
Yeah.
you play as Princess Toadstool in Mario 2, and she shows up in Mario RPG, but usually she's just relegated off to being nothing, or she's like she plays tennis in Mario Tennis or whatever. But seeing Princess Toadstool fire a fireball and jump into a pipe that was like hilarious, like
Yeah, that
parallel
is
with
actually
Mario,
kind of crazy to think about.
It's like that the story that paints weirdly for me of them as like Mario and Princess Toadstool professional like
Power
boss
couple?
Yeah, weird.
that was fucking cool. Like me as a small child to me now is like that's actually
Yeah.
why has Nintendo not had that be what the game is for 20 years?
Yeah.
That and then the Super Smash Brothers shit came out. I'm sorry that I'm opening out a thumbs with Nintendo
I don't know, it's
enthusiasm.
fine. Go for it.
It's this hate love combo that is actively going on in my brain. I like the Super Smash Brothers games because they are weird deep dives into Nintendo madness. And one of the things that was announced in the last couple of days is the new Super Smash Brothers features the Wii Fit fitness trainer avatar as a character.
Oh man,
Oh my God.
that's super good.
But that's the shit that I love. Like when
Yeah,
Mr.
yeah,
Game
yeah.
& Watch showed
Right.
up in
Yeah,
the
yeah,
Game
that's
Boy
what I was
Super Smash
thinking, yeah.
Brothers, and there's like a random character from Animal Crossing in it as well. But Wii Fit fitness trainer is like, what? Anyway, it's going to be Ganondorf versus the Wii Fit fitness trainer versus Mr. Game & Watch. Like,
Yeah, that's super
that's
good.
a video game that I can always get behind. But also, Smash Brothers is the only game that I've played, and I said to myself,
Wait, what do you mean Smash Bros? is
it's the only
game
fighting.
you've
It's the only
played?
like competitive. It's the only like
ever played.
competitive 2D fighting
Oh,
game that I have
sure.
ever really played. And I said to
Yeah.
myself, "Fuck that! Even if a really nice looking Super Smash Bros. Comes out, there's no way I'm ever going to consider buying a Wii U just to play these two goddamn games.
And yet,
I'm still probably not going to buy a Wii U just to play these
Yeah, yeah.
games. But
They did
that
all that
seed-
they
the
could.
seed has been
They
planted.
tried. They
like
tried really
the
hard
like
to capture your
the
system
stupid like
that.
Nintendo like hype sniper found the precise point and got a hook one into me, and it's gonna snap off before I get dragged all the way there.
Yeah,
but
yeah, yeah.
fucking Christ, it's a disaster to be like, why am I following the Smash Brothers Dojo blog again? Why am I watching this trailer of Mario jumping on guys? I haven't looked at this stuff
Right.
in years. Like I
Yeah,
haven't looked
yeah.
at that stuff since
Yeah.
Mario Galaxy. About really.
you know what's funny? With me and Nintendo, it's like I remember when I met you, like I don't know, a decade ago, or maybe a little more than that, and I remember getting into Nintendo stuff in part because you talked about it all the time, and I didn't grow up with Nintendo stuff really, other than like
Well, that was like Nintendo Prime time.
it was GameCube. No, I know.
Because that was like Ocarina of Time was out, Mario Sunshine was out, and Smash Brothers Melee was out, which was like a pretty solid.
Yeah, and
Metroid Prime.
So that was like a really like interesting time for me with Nintendo because I was familiar with all that stuff obviously because it would be hard not to be as someone roughly our age, but it didn't have like deep nostalgic kind of weight to me,
Right.
and so I kind of got into all that stuff in a really honest way. Like I remember getting a GameCube and getting Wind Waker and Smash Brothers and Pikmin, and I got really super into Pikmin. And we got really into Pikmin 2 when it came out.
Yep.
And I remember it was like really cool. I was really
Well, that's what got
pleased
you to
with
like
that,
roll
and-
back and play Super Metroid and stuff as well, right?
yeah, and like the original Zelda and all that stuff. And what's funny is that ever since that like high point on the GameCube, which was my like introduction to Nintendo, which I realize is an unusual introduction to Nintendo, but nonetheless, it was like really all that stuff was really exciting to me at the time, and I was really impressed by it. And what's funny is that in the like decade that has elapsed since the beginning of that phase for me, I've just sort of progressively gotten less and less interested in Nintendo because it really does feel like they just keep coming out with the same stuff all the time. Not that there aren't interesting innovations. Like I thought Mario Galaxy was amazing, and I played all the way through that game, and I loved it. I thought it was great, but it just like every generation or like every cycle of these, even the cool stuff in it is just a little bit less exciting to me. And without the nostalgic stuff to like keep propping it up, like
Right. Well, it's funny because
The nostalgic stuff really doesn't help much.
no, well, now the problem I think is that they play off the nostalgia to an increasing degree.
Yeah.
But my favorite two sort of Nintendo hardware generations are the Super Nintendo and the GameCube by a ton. Like I like a lot of original 8-bit Nintendo games.
Same.
And I like a lot of Nintendo 64 games, and I think that's a flip in like Nintendo fans who are not kids. It's like, are you the person who likes the 8-bit Nintendo and N64, or are you the person who likes Super Nintendo and GameCube? And
Maybe, yeah.
I don't know if that's entirely true, but it I know, like, I really liked. It just feels like the 16 bits.
Are you saying people who are kids prefer?
No. I'm saying people who are like. I think that there's a certain type of person who's going to argue to the grave that Super Mario Brothers 1, 2, 3, and like the original Zelda, the original Metroid are what's good because they're the first ones. But
Right.
I think that Nintendo defined a bunch of stuff in the 8-bit space and then did a really nice, polished, confident pass over all of those IPs again in the Super
sure.
Nintendo. And like Mario World, I'm mixed on, but I love Yoshi's Island. I love Super Metroid. I love Link to the Past. That's like one of my favorite Zelda games. And then the N64 came out, and I fucking hated it because I thought that it was just janky. Like it had a lot of original ideas, but the execution was not very good. And then with the GameCube, they took a lot of like Wind Waker is clearly an evolution of Ocarina of Time. Mario Sunshine is clearly an evolution of Mario 64, and it feels very much like the Super Nintendo to the N64's original 8-bit NES.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
But anyway, it's just you hit, I think, for what is for me personally a point that was kind of like the apex of 3D Nintendo gaming. I think is the
Right.
GameCube.
Yeah.
And so good job
Yeah. It's funny. We were.
because they haven't had a major flip in the style of stuff they make, except for all the weird casual Wii stuff,
Right.
which is not related to sort of
Yeah.
Mario Brothers to or Super Mario Brothers to Super Mario World to Mario 64
Metroid
and like
everything else,
those.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, it's kind of a bummer because because I actually love Smash Brothers. I mean, I've played a bunch of fighting games, but for whatever reason, Smash Brothers is the one that I always enjoyed the most. Well, I say for whatever reason, but I know why. It's because of the control scheme specifically. I really, really like that the inputs are the same for every character. Like that sounds like a small thing, but one of the things that's most frustrating
huge.
to me about fighting games.
It's not about mastering moves. It's about mastering your usage of the moves.
Yeah, which I know is also true in fighting games, but it makes me wonder why it's not only true in other fighting games. You know what I mean? Because other fighting games have just as much nuance on the usage side. So it's always baffled me that they pair that with like long strings of complex.
It ends up being in a
combos
pretty
for some
different
reason.
space, I think. I mean, just the types of moves. I don't know if any of us know enough about competitive
Yeah.
fighting games to talk about
In fact, I'm just gonna right now just strike everything I just said because
that's my feeling as well as someone who
I
doesn't
realize
play
that
a
I'm-
lot of fighting games.
yeah, no, I'm just gonna say like
Yeah.
right now for my own sanity, I'm gonna say please do not take anything I said as a strongly held opinion because I actually don't know anything
Right,
about fighting games.
just
So please
watching
don't
what-
send me lots of emails.
Watching what professional competitive fighter game players, like the traditional whatever of the Street Fighter Tekken school, which I know if you get into those, they're also very different, but they still involve lots of directional and multiple button combinations versus Smash Brothers, where it's like you have your A, B,
Yeah.
and then you can power them up with directions. What people are doing with their hands is just so completely different that it's there's got to be something different there. But for me, it's just I don't know. Well, also those don't have jumping and platforming and like simple mantling and stuff, which
Right.
Smash Brothers has.
Sure, yeah. I think Smash Brothers always kind of connect. This is a weird connection to make, but I think Smash Brothers always connected with me from a certain like PC gamer kind of fundamental system where like the only competitive games I've ever played, like anything remotely close to competitively, and not in that case, not even recently, would be like StarCraft and games like that. And those are games that are entirely constructed out of out of just interchangeable inputs, essentially. Like
Well, that's even the case with competitive first-person stuff.
totally.
Like, different classes in Team Fortress map more closely to different
Right,
characters in Smash
right.
Brothers than they do to different
Right.
fighters.
And like a lot of a lot of console games are just a lot more about the controller, or like especially earlier console games are a lot more about the controller and about patterns and things like that. And I think I never internalized that way of thinking about controlling a game, at least not at the like deep level that I think people who love fighting games.
So you were always a
have.
baby.
That's true. I've always been a baby, and I continue to be one to this
All
very
makes sense
day.
now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nick Brecken
All this time.
nods sagely. Oh, he's a baby.
Okay. Yeah.
But yeah, so
Anyway,
I had a weird Nintendo moment today when I watched
That's
a bunch of yeah, it's weird.
That's really weird.
I didn't think it would get to me, and then I felt weird.
You felt the...
I think the very first
The
game that I
spine.
talked about on Idle Thumbs was the Wario platformer for the DS or for the GameCube, one of those.
Mm-hmm. I remember.
And I opened up being just like, I'm a big Nintendo dork. Anyway, that's probably one of the last Nintendo games I talked
Idle
about.
Thumbs. We've got each of us has a niche.
Yeah.
Niche. Jake is the Nintendo dork.
I think we talked about
representing
Mario.
the Nintendo
We talked
perspective
about
every
Mario
week.
Galaxy maybe, and that's about it for Nintendo. Like, we don't talk about Nintendo stuff very much, but we used to
That's true.
in the early days of our friendship.
Yeah. I just haven't played much of it recently.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I might accidentally get a Wii U at some point just to play Smash Brothers.
Accidentally.
Wow, that was an amazing arc.
I won't do it. It won't happen.
But it might.
But I might. Don't look at my house. Oh, God.
Yeah. So what else, guys?
The big Nintendo Sony thing, I got to talk about it for a
the big
second.
You mean the
Nintendo
big
Sony thing.
Microsoft Sony thing?
Nintendo. Everything is Nintendo
Everything
to
is
me.
Nintendo.
Nintendo wins E3
Nintendo is
because they
overridden.
announced the Smash Brothers sequel for their new console that is a
Yeah.
year old. Weird. It's 1 year into a platform cycle for Nintendo. They announced a Smash Brothers game.
Oh, that's interesting.
That's
Interesting strategy.
Huh. God, this is the fourth Smash Brothers. Oh, they also announced the 3DS Smash Brothers, which I do not care about because that's an abomination. It actually looks really good. No, the Microsoft and Sony at this point have just become the presidential race.
I was thinking about that the same way. And Ouya is the Green Party.
Because, okay, like, it is the whole...
It's totally that now.
The, like,
oh yeah.
We have wedge
yeah,
issues
yeah.
now.
Oh, it goes back and forth too.
It's crazy.
It's so stupid.
When we have, like-
oh, we're back to PlayStation years. Oh boy,
Like,
I can't wait.
yeah, it's this...
Everything's gonna be different now, guys.
This responsive thing and the, like...
Oh man, you just nailed it with that right
Yeah.
there.
That's right, exactly.
Oh no, games are cool again because this company's doing it better than the other one.
There's
this
all
time.
there's all the stuff with Microsoft's really aggressive sounding DRM.
Nick is flipping out right now. This is weird. Sorry, go ahead, Jake.
Just all the really aggressive Xbox One DRM stuff. The Xbox
Yeah,
One is
yeah,
a
yeah.
surveillance state.
Oh, I know. Yeah.
But then Sony's saying, well, of course our games are just games on disc. You can loan them to your friends. You can rent them, whatever.
yeah.
That doesn't... What... Do you guys know? You probably don't know, but I didn't bother to dig deep enough into what their downloadable game policy is. But I imagine it's the same as the PS3, which is it's tied to your account.
I haven't heard specifics, but what I heard
Yeah.
is that basically yes, it's the same. It's everything like
Well, that's what's so crazy about it is that they get to sound really
They get to
progressive
sound revolutionary, but
by
it's the
just
same
saying
stuff for staying
by
the course.
just saying we're
Exact
just
same
doing
thing.
the same thing with
Oh, yeah,
consoles
stay the
always
course.
do.
But that's just
1,000
because,
points of light.
It's because Microsoft walked out and just said, anyway, anything that you expect for how your hardware works,
Right.
it doesn't.
Right,
And there's
right.
some
Yeah,
really
yeah.
good stuff about that and some really bad stuff about it.
Yeah.
But if what you really value is buying a disc and then handing it to your friend, you're fucked. But also, I feel like Sony's playing the smarter game here because I feel like by the end of the PS4 life cycle, not a lot of people are going to buy a disc.
Yeah.
Because PS4 and Xbox already
yeah.
have an increasing, like the
for
prevalence
sure.
of day
Yeah,
one,
full
buy a
$60
digital,
games.
download
Yeah.
it from the store.
yeah, that's
Why
what's so
we-
funny about it.
The only reason you go to GameStop at this point is presumably so you can sell the disc back.
Right. Yeah.
And I think
But the
they
thing
also get big crowds with like just because it's not just trading the disc, it's also because having traded discs, you have a discount on your new game,
Right.
And they've got the
yeah.
exclusive items and all those like weird perks and
It's like how you
things.
take your CDs that you buy now and you sell them to Tower Records.
But it
Right?
seems like
Remember?
at the same
We all do that, right?
at the same time, Microsoft announced you can sell a new game, or you can give a new game to a friend if there's certain
You can share.
you can transfer your license after certain restrictions are met, and I don't
Right.
remember what they are.
It's tied to your account.
But
And
how
it
is
has to be
that?
on your
How
friends
is that
list.
not going to turn into a schoolyard version of a kid handing a kid a $20 bill and him giving him a game? Like, how is that not going to turn into that?
What do
Yeah,
you
it'll
mean?
turn into that.
I'll give you my copy of Battlefield because I'm done with it. Hand me $30 in cash, and I'll do a license transfer.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, it feels like these are the really huge talking points right now. And then once both the consoles are out and both of them go through 2 or 3 operating system revisions,
Well, this is why it's so funny.
we're just
right?
going to be in a place
because
where
it
it's the same.
is a political race in the sense that people love the theater of it. Like, I don't think people are actually that excited about the differences in these consoles. I think they just love that, like, Sony just came out and said the thing you say in a debate to win the
Right.
the argument,
yeah, the
quote unquote
two- the-
argument.
the two E3
and then everyone
keynotes-
just went, "Oh shit! They said the thing.
Yeah.
That was the thing that you they needed to say.
It was crazy to watch.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Microsoft keynote followed by Sony keynote as political debate.
Right. Yeah.
And just watching that on Twitter, and it felt exactly.
They even
the same.
had the packaged ad to just drop. Did you see the ad?
Yeah, the political
Sony
ad.
Where the guy just,
it is a political ad.
It's a political ad.
Wait, what?
Sony went negative.
It should have just said Sony for America at the end. Like it was
Sony saying, "Here's how you loan. Here's how you."
it was a 25 second.
What was it? It was like, "Here's how you trade in a game. Here's how you."
Step one: how you trade a game on PlayStation.
I saw this. How you give a game to a friend.
Yeah, and then it was a friend handing a disc to someone else. And it was just boom.
Yeah,
and then just like I am a
Paid for
PlayStation
by
4 and I approve of this message.
Yeah, exactly.
But it was weird. Like it was basically.
It's $100 cheaper.
I said Sony went negative. Sony didn't quite go negative, but they walked as close to the line as you can get without actually just.
It was interpreted as negative.
Microsoft says you could do this.
Yeah.
Like they didn't have that first half of the ad, but otherwise they just
Microsoft.
yeah. Oh, it's bonkers, but it also like the stuff that they're arguing about and the stuff that is the talking points right now feel very similar to political debate stuff in that it sounds hard as shit right now where you're like, this is exactly how it's going to be.
Yeah.
Once you're in office, that stuff's not
when
even
November
comes. Like,
comes.
it's not in your fucking control. There's all these other crazy, like there's branches of government, there's stuff that's enforced at the local and state level. Like whatever you fucking say, that's what you believe.
Right.
But in the case of consoles now, it's what are your customers going to actually do with your products?
Right.
How are you going to rev this stuff over the course of software revisions? Like Xbox didn't support. You can download a game from the store. It was like Xbox 360 retail games are at retail. Arcade games are 40 megs and they have a leaderboard.
Yeah.
Hard line, that is what we believe. Anyway, download your retail games from your store. Download your 300 megabyte or your 6 gigabyte Xbox Live Arcade game. Like that's none of it matters.
Yeah.
It's weird.
Jeff Gerstmann made a really good point last night. I was watching the sort of ad hoc stream that he threw together at the end of the night, and he was just like, yeah, somebody sent in like a reader mail like, like this isn't it crazy that they completely destroyed Microsoft with all this stuff, and he was like, well, yeah, like that's $100 cheaper, but also maybe by November there's going to be these because the rumor is that you'll be able to subsidize
ad supported
cost.
It's the same way that there's ad supported Kindles,
right? Or like through your ISP, you're going to buy an Xbox One and it's going to be $200 or something. Like the rules of all of this shit,
the
$100 change.
The $100 retail price difference was the only thing that, at least right now, feels tangible for sort of launch. These are both like this holiday season. If there isn't a weird subsidy model or something, that's the thing that I think.
I've heard there is from a few different places. There's going to be, but I don't know.
Given all the other stuff in the software layer of the Xbox One, it seems like it would be bonkers to not have.
You mean the Xbox 360?
No, the Xbox 360 is given just everything that we know about the One.
Oh God, it's called the Xbox One. I keep forgetting. Man, that is such a strange name. I seriously thought you were
Sony announces the PSX.
Yeah.
God, remember when the PlayStation 1 was called the PSX by dorks for the longest time, but then Sony put out that crazy like beast that was actually called the PSX.
That weird like AV.
But wasn't that like an AV focused derivation of the PS2?
Yeah.
It was not the PlayStation 1. It was a weird
it was like a collaboration with Toshiba or something. Yeah. Like it was some weird thing.
Anyway, Microsoft announces the Xbox One, the once removed successor to the Xbox One. Yeah. But no, all the media layer stuff in the Xbox One just seems like they're going to say...
Just call it the X-Bone. There will be no confusion then.
The bone. Replace your boot video with streaming video? Or whatever the fuck it is. Like, ad-supported madness seems like it could happen.
Yeah.
A thing that David Eggers, not the author, the 2K community and support guy, who was a longtime Idle Thumbs contributor, pointed out on Twitter was, with no backwards compatibility, there is no focus on retention, which is weird.
No focus on what?
On customer retention. It seems like that is like it's a negative if you want to be able to play your old libraries, but at the same time, the Xbox One not out of the box playing Xbox 360 games is right now, like, I feel like Sony played that in a surprising weird way, because you say this is $100 less than what you're going to pay for an Xbox. Amazon pre-orders are open. Also, your back catalog is fucked anyway. You should probably it's weird to think about not worrying about customer retention in exchange for hoping to grab customer switchers. And I think that's like, I don't know, it's weird.
You're banking on loyalty, not your intangible loyalty rather than
Right, rather than
specific
the actual
investment.
value of your
Like,
library.
Yeah,
Like,
right.
you're it's
Yeah.
but
Are they both not backwards compatible, or what's the deal with
they're
that?
at least not hardware backwards compatible. They're both very separate platforms. I mean, I imagine that there's going to be at some point some sort of soft emulation solution.
Yeah. I bet
Or
both.
they'll
I
just
bet
let you download your PS3 games. And,
Right, but I mean,
yeah.
that your PS3 games would have to then be wrapped in a hardware emulator or recompiled
Right,
or
exactly.
something else.
But they'll charge you for it, I'm sure.
Yeah.
I bet both companies determined that that was not as widely used as everyone on the internet claims it is.
Yeah. Well,
Yes.
when it would be more likely to be widely used is if your entire library just transferred over always. Like
Sure, of course.
the way that it works on Steam, where you buy a new computer, and then like the first thing that I did for like 5x years, basically the back half of the 2000s was run through Half-Life 2 Lost Coast and Half-Life 2 like the first
Right, when you get a new
Lost
computer
Coast.
set up.
every new
and it's
computer,
like,
like how much more can I crank up some
Yeah,
of my
yeah.
favorite games?
Yeah,
and
yeah.
that's obviously never going to be a thing on consoles, but
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It's weird. Consoles.
Man, my Steam. I've been using now the same Steam, like installation that I've just been either transferring from from computer to computer in the same hard drive, or just copying entirely when I needed to get a bigger hard drive. But it's been the same like chunk of files that's just been
I haven't
slowly.
done a mass Steam redownload for like 4, 5, 6 years at this
Yeah,
point.
mine's been at least that long as well. Yeah, it's crazy. It's really cool though.
Yep. So imagine if you could just slam your 360 hard drive into your Xbox One. It's not really
It's
that
not
imaginable.
very
It's not a
likely.
thing.
No.
Imagine if you could put your Xbox 360 faceplate on your Xbox One. Your Assassin's Creed 1 faceplate.
Yeah, man, I saw a mock-up of a wood panel version of the Xbox One.
Oh
That
man!
was
And then
really
it had the little
attractive.
green segmented LEDs on the front of it too, I believe.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
it just looked like
It looked like the actual thing that it looks like.
I want
which
that
is-
so bad.
Yeah,
I actually like the industrial design of both of the.
I do too. I'm not crazy about the rhomboid nature of the PS4.
No, that part's weird, but I like that everything looks very geometric and like
Yeah.
a piece of home stereo
I
equipment.
agree with that. Yeah.
They both just look like when
I'm
the
glad they don't look swoopy or angular and weird.
when the new Daft Punk album was coming out, they had that little preview trailer that was just like one of the Daft Punk-esque guys
Mm-hmm.
dressed in a crazy like Michael Jackson costume with weird leather future gloves and stuff.
Okay.
But then it was just nothing but cameras panning past faux futuristic hi-fi equipment with, you know, crazy huge blinking lights and sheened surfaces, and then at the center of all of it was a really, really nice turntable, and they put the LP on. But basically had the camera passed by an Xbox One and a PS4 in
It
that.
would have
like,
been unnoticeable.
you would not have
Yeah,
noticed it
yeah.
amongst their like
Right.
revivalist, weird, like reinterpreted 80s hi-fi
Yeah,
equipment.
yeah.
That's good. It's fine. But man, not paying attention to this stuff and only just kind of watching it now, it does feel it feels weird.
I had a weird experience that day because this has been a really busy week at work, and like I muted every. Like, at Steve's suggestion, I downloaded a client called Destroy Twitter for my computer for that day, and I like comprehensively muted everything that was related to E3. So my Twitter was like really sedate and just had like really weird exclamations every once in a while. It was a really strange experience. And so like the stuff that was so overwhelmingly noise making that it just busted through my
Which is probably
created
the
wall.
Sony stuff, I'm
yeah,
sure.
which was the
stuff that
Sony
did
stuff
that.
was
Yeah.
like the stuff that I became
Right.
directly aware of
Those
before
just
I
vague, like 2 sentence
Whoa!
or 2 word tweets.
yeah there was
That's cool. Okay, that's awesome.
yeah yeah exactly.
God, I'm sorry. Anybody who tweets like that, stop it.
You know, I'll be deleting my Twitter feed now.
Just
I don't tweet that
you
stuff.
son of a bitch.
I don't fucking tweet that stuff.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we have no connection to E3 other than that stuff, I guess.
Yeah.
Other than that weirdly extended analysis we just did of
Yeah.
I've been following it, but out of intrigue at the events. I mean, also,
yeah
I can probably safely say that were I to pick up a console at this point, it would be a PlayStation 4. But that's just like out of all of these things.
Sure.
Mhm.
Yep.
yeah
Were I to vote
Why
for a
not?
president, I would have voted for Barack Obama.
Yeah, that's
At
that's
some
what
point,
I
I'll be
felt
spied
about
on
it,
by the NSA, apparently,
Yeah.
and all
Yeah.
sorts of other horrible things will happen. But
Mm-hmm.
you know,
you know drone crashes through the wall like
Fool me once. Yeah.
I guess I'd rather play some whatever pub fund funded indie games over having a Kinect camera in my house, even though 90% of the content is going to be identical.
Yeah.
It's so
Yeah.
weird. let us all remember that Sony is the one who filed the fucking patent about say McDonald's to end commercial, not Microsoft.
Oh, I know. That was the thing that really made the political thing seem like an apt comparison.
Where
It's
they're
just
like,
that,
Microsoft's spying on you with the Kinect. They know everything you do. Anyway, meanwhile, Sony in their back pocket has literally say McDonald's to end commercial.
yeah, it's
Like that is filed with the government.
yeah. Like it's kind of hard for me to get
Pickle
excited
Extreme,
about like any of
Sony.
this stuff because I'm like, all right, so Sony's maintaining the status quo. Like I'm kind of already not super crazy about like I'm not that excited to get another console anyway. So like I don't know.
Yeah.
Games. Oh, I just want to issue a public service announcement if you're making mobile games. I downloaded this game Stickets for my iPhone.
What are we
What
now?
is this episode? I don't understand. Continue.
I just want it'll take me like
this is in
20
keeping-
So
seconds.
anyway, that's the major console announcement from all of the biggest world's hardware manufacturers. Anyway,
I'm not
I've
really into
downloaded this
consoles anymore.
iOS game,
I've downloaded
Stickets.
Stickets.
Yeah, I don't really care about consoles.
Yeah.
Let me issue a public service
Fuck
announcement
AAA.
about
It's all about Stickets. Like what?
Stickets for president.
It's not like the most amazing thing. I'm bringing it up because I want to say if you make a mobile game, you need to include controls to disable sound and music within the game itself and not just expect me to mute my entire phone because sometimes I listen to podcasts and stuff on my phone and when your game is constantly blaring like shit into my ears that I can't turn off.
This is why certification requirements make games better for the consumer.
This is just yeah.
But see, this is the thing. On the PC, everyone always has options for all that stuff. So it's not...
See, what this feels like right now is like a political town hall. Like you're just standing up and the candidate...
I bought this game Stickets for my telephone.
It's true.
My,
right.
there was this
On
cow
PC
on my lawn and I didn't like it.
On PC, everyone has options for that stuff, but in just iOS OS level APIs, there is one registered system-controlled, system-registered audio playing application. And it's either your web browser, your music application, your phone conversation thing, or a streaming audio player like a podcast playing app. And app developers have the ability to respect if that's playing when I launch, mute X, Y, and Z aspects, like mute everything but UI sounds, like don't play music, don't play sound. And developers who don't hook into that stuff basically just suck, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
But if there were certification, like the iOS matches more closely to a game console for me, and on game consoles, like on the Xbox, if you're playing music, you fail cert if your system doesn't respect those API calls.
Right.
That's all. It's annoying.
I mean, I would definitely not.
I'm glad there's not fucking cert on iOS.
I would not call for that.
But also,
I think it's just a thing that I've played lots and lots of games that have that option.
I hope you rated the game
achievable.
1 star in the App Store and said, "Fix this music," and then I'll give you your 4 stars back.
So the reason I'm okay with bringing it up, like on that, I wouldn't if it was a game I actually didn't like. I wouldn't
because you've registered 30 iTunes Store accounts, all of which have said that.
No, I'm okay bringing it up because it's actually a game I'm positive about. If it was a game I didn't like and that happened, I just wouldn't even bother.
So is this your segment of talking about how Stickets is cool?
I don't have that much to say about it.
Chris,
but
tell me on Stickets.
It's just a cool. It's a nicely put together puzzle game that I have enjoyed. I just wish that I could turn the music off. I mean, it just makes me not play it during instances where I would otherwise play it.
I know it just sounds like phone dead.
But I really like that it's $3 and that's the game, and there's no there appears to be absolutely no free-to-play stuff or like ads or anything. It's just an actual game you buy, which is just nice when that actually happens these days on a phone.
Video games.
What's your name? Listen, you son of a bitch. Listen, you fucking piece of shit. Listen, you fucking asshole.
Video games.
I'm going to get back into ignorant zone because we're just surfing in and out of it with wild abandon.
Yeah.
But PSN on PS4 is now pay only the same way that Xbox is.
Right. PlayStation Plus for multiplayer.
Yes. And a thing that I saw pointed out about this, and it's potentially a generalization because I don't know enough about how these marketplaces work, is someone said, it's yet another generation where multiplayer-only game or multiplayer gaming is an add-on instead of a key feature. And that's probably true to a certain degree. You're either paying for a subscription to an MMO on top of your multiplayer subscription, or your game basically, for the majority of games that you make, I imagine that your single-player campaign has to come first and multiplayer has to come second because multiplayer is a paid-only subset of your audience.
You mean on a console?
On a console.
Yeah.
Like,
I don't know. It's a good question.
So, like, that said, are we going to start seeing free-to-play stuff on these consoles that have multiplayer components that are subsidized through the free-to-play audience? Like, could you launch a MOBA on these consoles?
You mean to circumvent the PlayStation Plus requirement? Or
Well, right. I mean, are Microsoft and Sony going to look at something like we want to do League of Legends or
free
Dota?
for silver members or whatever.
Right, where it's just free for PSN members, free for silver members, and you don't need Plus and you don't need Gold, but it's because these games would generate so much money on their own that they wouldn't need to subsidize that stuff.
Yeah,
But
I can see that, yeah.
I don't know what other way there is for a developer to make a competitive multiplayer game unless... Like, I mean,
Microsoft probably has found that there's like a certain critical mass of Xbox Live subscribers past which developers can feel comfortable.
But no one does it.
You mean something that really is truly multiplayer focused,
right? Like
to the exclusion?
there are huge multiplayer games on consoles.
But even Call of Duty has like the most expensive single player
and Halos and stuff.
ever.
But right, people, those games.
Yeah.
The multiplayer exists as we know everyone's going to play this, but no one's ever going to make...
You couldn't have released TF2 as not part of a thing that had single-player pack-ins on console.
There's not going to be a Battlefield 1943 or what was the Wolfenstein Enemy Territory is, I guess, that's never going to...
Well, there was
exist.
that Battlefield 1943 was a console game, right? And that was multiplayer only, I think.
That's true.
Yeah.
Yes.
I wonder how that did.
That was an arcade game. It would probably be tough to do that as a $60 thing, but that'll probably become less. That distinction will matter less.
That's true. Battlefield 1943 is the I'm sure people are going to write in with a million examples of this, but it's just it's multiplayer only and competitive multiplayer is a thing in the PC space, and I think that's partly because there's no barrier to entry other than the cost of the game, or if it's a free to play game, the cost of just doing business within its store. There's no implication that you have to be a subscriber to any particular service.
Right.
And that barrier to entry is still a very strongly perceived thing, I think. If you need Xbox Live Gold and PSN Plus
that'll be
to play Call of Duty.
Mm-hmm. Right. Well, I mean, and also I think there are going to be a lot of MMOs that are going to come out for these systems.
Weird. Why?
I don't know. I mean, like, look at Destiny. Look at the Elder Scrolls Online. Look at all the stuff that has already been announced. That's way more than was ever planned. For
I guess maybe
you're
guaranteed, like, these consoles are being sold as always connected. People are maybe feeling like maybe there's a comfort level enough with console players.
I think also both.
So we can ruin these people's lives now with MMOs for 5 years.
I mean, Microsoft's had that requirement for years, and they've clearly been really putting a lot of effort into trying to make Xbox Live a thing that is a huge value add. Not just in games, right? Yeah. But in a bunch of things. And I assume Sony's going to double down on that as well.
The software layers on both the PlayStation 3 and the Xbox 360 are very much built around, like, what if it's in a kid's room that doesn't have internet? Like, the 360 didn't even ship with Wi-Fi built in. Whereas
I think
now
those companies are just deciding
Right. But I mean,
that
means that we're in the space that I think PCs were assumed to be a decade or so ago, where it's like, these guys just are always plugged straight into their cable modem. Right. So you can log in and out of WoW whenever the fuck you want. And that's, I think... Nick, is that where you think the winds are blowing as far as why we're starting to see that stuff coming up?
Yeah,
weird.
I think it's that time for consoles. I think
get ready for that Halo MMO.
Yeah,
no TV series.
Yeah,
Transmedia.
Interactive television.
Man, there's a lot of people actually trying Transmedia stuff.
I know, it's a real bummer.
It's weird.
Yeah, it's super weird.
It's the future.
Yeah. It's kind of fundamentally unexciting, right? Like no creative person I mean, I'm sure people would disagree with this, but like the fundamental notion of a transmedia venture is like that just by definition is basically some executive deciding this is what we need to achieve. Like it's just it seems like such a top-down way of making something to me.
I'm not going to agree with you on that because I think that you and I think about that stuff differently, but sure. I always see anything like that as an opportunity for someone to do something good in it, even if it's created out of evil.
I'm not saying there isn't an opportunity, but the motivation just always seems really unexciting to me. But yeah, people could always do good things. I mean, have they? Has that been a thing that's worked out well?
I don't know. There was that one short in the Animatrix that was good about the detective.
Oh, yeah.
So,
That's true.
Yeah. I don't know. Games are cool.
Games.
I've been very slowly playing through the Swapper still.
Oh, man. I just started it.
Oh, yeah? What do you think?
It's sweet.
Yeah, it's really good.
It's fucking Swapper.
I kept thinking I was near the end, and then I guess I wasn't. I'm not really sure. It feel the stuff I'm doing in the game right now feels like I'm like coming towards a big climax. But like the way I've been playing it has I've just been. It actually feels like doing a really hard crossword puzzle. It's not as hard as like a Saturday New York Times crossword puzzle, but like my pattern of play is similar to that. Like on the hardest crossword puzzle days, I'll play it until I hit something really tough. Like Saturday in particular, Saturday's the hardest day of the New York Times crossword, and that's the day that often it actually takes me more than a day. Mm-hmm. Not like more than 24 hours, but like more than an amount of time I'm willing to sit and do that one
sort
thing
of
for.
Blips that you do crosswords for spread out.
Yeah, and like Sunday's a lot easier, so like Saturday will often bleed over into that, and like and occasionally even Monday. And so the way it just ends up that I do it is like I'll fill in answers until I am just completely stuck on something, and I'll set it aside. And when I come back like 8 hours later, 12 hours later, 24 hours later, I often find that my brain
just like
has arranged itself in such a way
allowed that
it's like suddenly I just have a huge another burst. And the Swabber's been the same. It's never like extraordinarily diabolical, but there are moments where I'll hit my head against something for a while and I'll realize I'm not in a mode where I'm actually coming up with new creative solutions to this problem.
Yep.
So I'll just quit the game. I'll Alt F4 the game and I'll go do something else. And then when I come back to it later, the next day or whatever, I'll almost always find that the place I stopped, I just kind of breeze through. And it's a really cool feeling. It's a really interesting thing.
It is one of the better things about brains. I mean, it would be nice if your brain didn't get stuck on a thing, but being able to sort of... That, when you're consciously aware of the sort of like foreground aggressive processing of something and then just going, you know what? I know that I'm just going to keep thinking about this even if I don't think about it. And then come back a day or two later and go, oh, obviously it's that.
Yeah.
So crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
weird. I mean, that happens at work all the time too. It's like, it's funny when it's kind of interesting when it happens in a thing that is ostensibly for entertainment purposes, but it's a really good feeling in a game. It's a really nice contrast to games that like so desperately don't want you to ever stop or get stuck or have any like meaningful resistance. I mean, it's nice to play a game that makes you feel that way. Because the other nice thing is that I feel like I'm playing through it a lot more slowly than I would if I was just really intent on barreling through it, which I mean, I'm sure I could, but like this has been a really pleasurable way to play it. And it also has sort of resonated to me with the way the story is told in that game. There's something weird and like chronologically fractured in the game narrative that I'm not entirely sure what it all means yet because I haven't finished the game. But you
haven't completed the swap.
I have not. I haven't beat the game yet. I haven't beat the boss.
Oh, you beat a lot of levels though.
Yeah, I beat some boards. But it feels like there's something going on in the story that is like probably unintentionally resonant with the way I'm actually experiencing the game as a work, which I think is really cool.
That's cool.
Also, I'm only ever playing it late at night because that's just when I have time.
That's when you can see space outside.
Yeah, and it's nice. It's a good game to play in that atmosphere, when everything is sort of muted and things are quiet and I don't know. I'm just still really enjoying that game, and I'm really glad that I haven't finished it yet because I'm really enjoying this sort of slow wade through it. It's been super fun.
I was gonna say that background sort of walk away from it and come back thing is a thing that the Swapper has in what I need to think about what my sentence. I'll come back in 2 days. In common with
nice one, Jake.
Is adventure games, but I think that that's not actually true across all adventure games. I think it's only true of adventure games that are sort of mechanically consistent in and of themselves.
Right. Yeah.
And it's a weird example, but the adventure games, I mean, I played them as a kid the most, but Monkey Island 1 and 2, the games that I always fucking bring up about everything, those games have a really strong internal vocabulary. Like they're really RPG informed and for adventure games. But those are games where they have enough of a common language that I walked away from them for 2 or 3 days at a time and then would sit down and know the solution to the puzzle. And that was the first time that experience happened to me in a game. And the Swapper obviously is very regimented in how its systems work. But I think that sort of combination of context and sense of space plus the problem that you have to solve, your brain can sort of map it to the way that it maps real problems, but
Yeah.
it has enough
Well,
rules that you can,
because the swapper-
you can
yeah.
sort of infer a reality from it.
Because the swapper is rigidly logical in the
Yeah.
application, in the sort of execution of its systems.
Yeah.
It's cool. It's pretty good. I like it.
Did you talk about Metro last week? I didn't listen to last week's episode.
Oh yeah,
did.
yeah. It was. You should listen to it. It's a really. It
Or maybe you
was-
shouldn't.
Why? What do you mean?
I have no memory of that discussion, so
Really?
yeah.
It was really good.
That was
Remember when we were talking about consoles? a
I
few
remember
minutes ago?
drinking like this much whiskey. And
God,
then,
that's the only reason you were happy about something, apparently. Then. Nick was really pleased about this one part in Metro, and maybe
Yeah.
it's just because he was impaired.
It's possible.
I have not gone back to Metro for 2 weeks, and it's
Oh, you
killing
son
me.
of a bitch.
I know, I suck.
There's so many mails to you.
There's so many what?
Mails.
Emails written to
Yes.
him.
About Metro?
Yes.
You sure they weren't about Opera?
Most of them were. But I played some State of Decay.
Oh yeah,
You just started it though, right?
I played about an hour.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't.
You watched
You
a minute of
indicated
State
that.
of Decay.
Yeah, you indicated that you weren't like extraordinarily over the moon about it, but I did walk in to the living room as you were
Yes.
playing. As a thing happened, that was like the most
It was pretty
excellent
good.
moment
Yeah.
that I could have imagined happening in a game like that.
Here's the thing. I need to play more of it. I know that there are cool elements to this game that I haven't experienced yet.
Mm-hmm. Give the
Yeah,
basic
it's
rundown
so
on
it's
it.
yeah. This is a game made by Undead Labs, which
Yeah, those guys.
I believe somebody told me it was founded by. Maybe it was you, Chris. Said it was founded by the lead programmer of World of Warcraft.
Steve mentioned that.
Steve mentioned that. Yeah. So yeah. I mean, and I think this game, feels. So it's an open world game, and what's great about it is that the first thing that I liked about it was that it began and was immediately player controlled, and I didn't have to sit through a cutscene or anything. You're just dropped on
Such
a
a
beach.
nice rarity these
Oh my
days.
god, was
really
it
is
nice?
amazing.
I thought for sure because it's just sort of it loaded in and there was a line of dialogue, and I thought, oh god, here we go. And then it was just my controls, and you were immediately killing a zombie, which fine, like as long as I can control my dude, perfect, good. So we're in this like open world. And it's a really janky game. Like I'm just gonna say that like right off the bat, it's really janky, and it feels kind of incomplete in some ways, and it's really buggy. But that's kind of what's cool about it, I guess, is it feels like this very rough around the edges world, and it has a lot of interesting twists on just a single player open world game. For instance, you can find people throughout the world, other survivors, and bring them back to colonies that you sort of found. And I guess you can do this. This is one of the things I just haven't experienced yet, but I guess you can just go into any building in the game and say, this is my like survivor camp. And you can like plant your flag and say, this is my camp. And you can also then at that point, like say this house over here is my like, whatever, like supply room. And this is where the
Crazy.
garden's going to be. And you
Yeah.
can actually like found these little, colonies, and then find people throughout the world and bring them back.
How do you bring them back?
You just find them. I mean,
Are they like they're another third person NPC in the game who follows
Yeah.
you like
Right.
they like escort you style?
It's like Counter-Strike. You just find them, go hello, and then they go, oh, I thank you. And then
oh,
you
so
just-
they
you
like
just drag them
diplomat
back.
walk their way back to you
Right.
or whatever.
Yeah. So and it a lot of the game is very GTA in that you can get in a car, drive your car, your NPC guys will just jump in the side.
Do the cars
doors
have
and-
gas?
I don't. Maybe they do.
That
I
would be
don't
really
think
weird
so.
if there was infinite gas in a zombie. Whatever, who cares?
It's
It's probably fun.
This game, they probably don't. I didn't notice whether or not they do. But other than that, though, I mean, it's pretty severe in its mechanics.
That base
Like,
setup idea actually sounds really cool.
No, it's really cool. I mean, on top of that, too, when you die, this is another surprising thing that was really cool. You die for real, and then you
Steve
immediately-
Gaynor is dead.
Yeah, but then you load in as one of the other survivors, and it goes, oh man, we really like.
Oh, so
Molly.
there's actual narrative permanence of the characters in the world.
You immediately load in to like an NPC, and then everyone's just like, "Oh God, we really like Frank. Oh, too bad
I
about
love
that."
that. That sounds like
That's really good.
It sounds like
It
the
was really
Karateka
good.
That's like Karateka, yeah.
Yeah.
structure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
So there are cool things like
cool.
that. There's a day-night
Oh,
cycle.
cool game.
It's a really severe, like you're finding supplies and you constantly like.
So does it have like the day-night cycle of Minecraft, basically? Where
I think it's like an hour on.
I mean,
hour
and then
off.
when it's
Oh,
night, you're
sorry.
fucked.
Right? Yeah. I assume I never
So-
actually got to nighttime yet, but
Oh, okay.
yeah. But just the thought of it being night, because it was already really difficult by the end. I played like an hour, and by the end of that hour, I was just getting torn in half, like left and right. So I think you're finding it's just a really drastic survival horror game, but with all of these interesting open world elements.
Hopefully there's a Driver San Francisco DLC element that you can add where it turns out that you have the consciousness of the same guy who can just leap in and out of bodies with bad narration.
Yeah.
If they added that, I think this would be my goatee, just from your description.
Yeah. I don't know. It's I need to play more of it, but it's definitely worth checking out, I think. And you can download the trial on XBLA.
Wait, did you talk about that moment that happened?
Oh, no, I didn't.
I walked in.
There are these zombie hordes. They just show up on the map.
Horde.
Oh, sorry. But there were multiple hordes.
Sorry, I didn't hear the
Horde,
D.
what?
I just heard there are these zombie whores.
Oh, well, there are also those probably. At some point in the game. I don't know. But like,
there are zombie hordes.
Yes.
Okay.
So as I
I was doing the thing that you do, of course.
Oh wait, was Nick about to tell a story about what happened in a game and then we interrupted him 5 times?
Of course you did. God damn it!
Welcome to Idle Thumbs, episode 110.
Go ahead, Nick.
So anyway, I just drove around and killed some zombies. No, I found a car. I think it was the first car I found, and I noticed that there were these massive collections of zombies on the map, and I thought, I'll just go run them over, and I'll do the funny thing where you run them over. And as I was running them over, I realized that the game is modeling damage on the car, and this is not going to work for very long. Like, I'm just basically, this car is going to be fucked in like 10 seconds. So then I just started, doing like, at that point I was like, well, we'll just see how far I can push this. And I just started doing 180s and just going down this one specific street, just destroying this car with just
this isn't even what I was thinking of. So the thing...
Oh, no, it is though. Well, no, what are you thinking of though?
Well, finish your story first.
Well, no, and then I
was thinking before you even in a car, you started on foot. The thing that I witnessed. And
no. This was after that. So then I got out of the car because I was like, this car's going to explode. And then a bunch of zombies just started running at me, and I was like, oh shit, I gotta get back in this car. And then I jumped in the car, and as I was jumping in the car, another zombie leapt at the car from the other side and latched onto the passenger door.
That's on the passenger door.
And then I was just driving around with a zombie in tow.
So it's like as soon as you...
I like that you're like, I will tell your story better than you.
I will.
Okay,
I mean,
that's fine.
I don't know if I'll tell it better, but I'll remember a thing that was funny to me. Like the as you got into the car, like the guy jumped on your thing.
Oh, you died!
And no, you didn't. And you did. You did the thing that you always see in disaster movies or movies where someone's being pursued, where as soon as you got in the car, like as soon as you had like accelerator control, you just immediately slammed it because that's what happens in a game when you're just like frantic and you're going forward. And immediately as you got in, the zombies latched on and you just slammed right forward into a wall that was like 3 feet in front of you. And well, you said you started driving around and he was hanging on. Yeah. This was like immediately. This was right as you got in the car. You slammed right into a wall. And like the whole front of your car just immediately turned into a garbage pile. And then you backed up and the zombie, like the force of that caused the door to open. And so the zombie was holding onto this open door. And then as you were doing the thing where you do the like reverse 180, the door rips off and the zombie flies off. And then you speed away down the bridge. It was the best. It was super good. It was like very accurate to what someone would have scripted in the actual zombie movie where the guy jacks a car and drives away, which doesn't ever actually happen. No one in movies ever jacks cars as easily as they do in video games, but it was still pretty good. I enjoyed it.
Cool.
So in conclusion, you died.
Yeah.
Eventually, but not when I was watching.
Oh, did you die?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
What were you guys talking about walking around? Were you going to... my interest was piqued.
Well, when I came in, you were not in a car. When I came in, you were just walking around for a while.
Oh, that sounds really exciting.
Yeah. I got ripped in half. Zombies found me.
Do you actually get ripped in half?
Yeah, you actually get ripped in half.
Like limbs pop off and stuff?
It's pretty gruesome, yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
So you would say this game's rated M?
For men.
ESRB fragrances?
Yeah. Yeah.
M for men.
M for men.
That sounds like a thing that someone would try and market horribly.
E for everybody. AO for adults only. Is like these are all this gross. Anyway, the Idle Thumb store is coming soon. So get the fuck ready. for our ESRB cross licenses.
Yeah. It is actually coming soon.
Yeah. It is.
Yeah.
Cool. We have reader mail.
M for men.
Well, I'm just thinking of the emails that we received this week. Anyway.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Johnny Driggs. This is the guy who does our YouTube videos.
He writes, why don't you promote my YouTube channel more often?
If you go to the Idle Thumbs YouTube channel, which is Idle Videos, that's the name of our YouTube channel, the entire Idle Thumbs archive, thanks to the ridiculously impressive work of Johnny Driggs, has been uploaded with actual clickable timestamps.
It's uploaded and annotated. So
yeah, it's totally bonkers.
Yeah, if there's a thing where you remember, oh, I bet we talked about that. If you want to jump to a specific game discussion from an episode,
or link
you remember,
someone to
or
it,
link
or
someone
whatever,
to jump in an episode, you can. And he's up to the week now, so like a day or two after this episode goes up on the site, it'll be up on the YouTube channel with annotations, and it's bonkers. Apparently, our web player also supports jumping to time, but we just don't
this is
ever
not
link to
surfaced
it
anywhere, but
Yeah.
it works. Yeah. All right. So anyway, he does not write about that. He writes, "Hi guys.
Oh, hey.
Hi Jake.
Damn it!
Yeah.
Did it say hi Jake in the email?
Yes.
Good.
It said, "Hi guys," in parentheses. Oh, hi Jake.
Hi Johnny.
He knows you. He says, Chris's discussion about the whitewash setting of Ace Patrol and Brad Muir's decision to implement same-sex marriage and Massive Chalice inspired by fan feedback made me wonder about presenting progressive attitudes in historic and fantasy settings. A lot of fantasy games attempt to create a setting with a more modern attitude about gender roles, race, etc., since they're not beholden to actual semblances of historical accuracy.
But they have elves in them.
That's what he's saying, since they're not beholden to any semblance of historical accuracy.
Anyway,
Yeah.
whatever.
Others present a setting more in line with medieval attitudes, since that's the time period almost all fantasy is based on, but that might risk alienating potential players. Games set in the events of actual human history might have a greater burden to depict their eras faithfully, but games like Ace Patrol sidestep tackling those issues of inequality. Do you think it's a mistake for games to default to a more modern, inclusive, and diverse milieu when taking place in these kinds of settings? It's always good to make diverse characters and experiences, but is it disingenuous to ignore the realities of setting that take place in the past or are based on the past? Keep up the good work, Johnny.
I think this is similar to some stuff that we've talked about in the past, but I feel like if your game is using that stuff for set dressing and is disregarding any other historical context or meaning, does it really matter? I don't know, but I think that if your game ends up actually trying to simulate some of the events that occur in that time, maybe it's worth being honest about those things and not whitewashing it or politically correcting it, and instead trying to make the gender and ethnic numbers in your game kind of match what's in history, and then maybe you're going to end up getting passive emergent situations that actually replicate reality more accurately because of that.
I agree, and I think it's actually extremely different between fantasy and history. I think there's actually a huge difference, and even fantasy that is directly based on, for example, medieval or feudal society, because here's the thing about fantasy. It's only based on the parts of history that you think are awesome. It's it's based on reality, except you think dragons are cool, so put them in the game. Right. So if you're already saying...
When you get into everything is what I think is awesome, and then you also only have white dudes, you're in a zone that is the bad zone.
You're saying something a little weird. Because if you actually think medieval society is super rad...
But what if you only... Seriously, that's what I was trying to say, is what if you only have white dudes and hot elves?
Oh, God, that sounds pretty accurate.
Maybe passively want to have sex with you or a potential mate.
I like that. But is it it's gritty though, so it's real?
Well, you overcome great obstacles at great physical and emotional cost to you. But in the end, you're fucking cool.
That sounds pretty. I like that a lot. I think we should make some games that are like that. But yeah, I feel
we collectively, Idle Thumbs presents.
Yeah. I feel like people can talk about realistic fantasy or gritty fantasy or whatever, or fantasy inspired by history. But ultimately, the fact that it's called fantasy, you are picking and choosing the things that you think are actually cool about whatever ostensible historical setting you're inspired by. You're making conscious choices that some of these things are worth including and some of them aren't, and there's going to be an implicit value judgment no matter what. I absolutely don't think it's overly politically correct. If you're already in a setting that is called fantasy, I don't think it is an undue nod to tolerance to make that reality something that better reflects your actual set of beliefs, because that's what you're doing anyway. It's what you're doing when you make a fantasy setting. I don't think that means every fantasy setting should just should just be like, by extension, just the best version of our world plus dragons and elves. But I think that these decisions are actually more elastic than a lot of people say, or a lot of people seem to think when they get upset about political correctness in made-up settings.
It's, yeah. If something other than what I self-identify as is in a work, then the work is therefore about that, is the attitude that is gross.
Exactly.
And like, no, real life isn't about you. Also, most stories aren't. Like, I don't know. It's weird. People are weird.
Yep.
Yeah.
But also,
history is definitely very different. It's hard. History is a much harder one to tackle. For actual real history is much harder to tackle, because there is a certain responsibility you have to very specific things that aren't just made up. Like, you do have less license to just say, well, I think this is awesome, so I want a dragon in my thing. Like, there's actual things that happen that you can cross-reference with, and that is a lot harder. But I mean, representing things honestly, if it's actual honesty and it's not just like power fantasy, like honesty or power fantasy kind of coolness, I think that is in itself like really powerful and laudable. I don't know. I think I definitely see the two areas as fundamentally different.
yes.
I mean, and of course, obviously, every work is different too. Like, I don't mean to imply that literally every single historical game and every single fantasy game needs to have the same intention behind it. That's obviously not the case. But I think as a general rule, your responsibilities in a historical setting are different than your responsibilities in a fantasy setting.
Yeah, there's also such a thing as historical fiction, though, which does make your two fundamentally different things have a line that's crossed where you're saying, I'm telling a story that is based in history, but I've changed these two facts or whatever, you know.
But I think
which
a
usually
fact
means
is
that there's a
different.
steam-powered robot.
Yeah, a fact is different than a rule of the rule that governs the world, right? Like, I don't think steampunk is historical fiction. I mean, to me, it's not.
No.
To me, it's another version of fantasy, basically.
Sure, but like, what if Einstein built a time machine and he killed Hitler? What would happen then
Red Alert 2.
to global race dynamics?
Well, that was explored.
Oh, the Brotherhood of Nod would rise,
Yeah.
I guess.
That was explored in the Electronic Arts 1996 work, Red Alert 2, whatever the hell it came.
That was Red Alert 1.
Oh, yeah, it was. You're right.
Yeah.
Einstein kills Hitler in Red Alert 1.
Yeah, no, you're right. I'm terrible.
Get your fucking lore
I know.
locked in.
I'm the worst.
Hell March.
Classic.
Yeah.
We've probably talked about this a million times, but Command & Conquer 1 and Red Alert 1 have two of the best full-motion video opening cutscenes in the fucking world. Rollerblader drinking motor oil, and then like the people slapping each other and making out or whatever it is that happens in CNC 1.
It's bonkers.
It's so good that the like just sci-fi real-time strategy game has like a weirdly commercialized like 90s counterculture opening cutscene.
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh, it's so good.
Yeah.
That and then, Einstein murdering Hitler with a time glove.
Yeah, it's the best.
Yes.
All right. Jude Jackson says,
Hey,
Hey,
man,
it's-
I can't say it.
he writes, Dead Jake.
I know. This cracked me up when I saw this coming.
Dead Jake. What are your favorite video game visual effects? It can be general, UV scrolling, God rays, or specific, the cube-mapped fake interiors in Assassin's Creed 3 or Batman's cape.
When you actually die, by the way, I'm going to send an email.
Jake is doing the closest thing to physically exploding
Yeah, I know.
he can be doing without actually exploding.
What are your favorite video game visual effects? You know me too well.
I know. That's what's amazing about
That's why I read it. It might have an interesting answer.
Is that everything?
That's the email.
Is
Yeah.
there more?
I don't know about cube-mapped rooms in Assassin's Creed. That's beyond my reference.
So he means like, have you ever played Assassin's Creed?
Mm-mm.
You can imagine what
I mean,
it is.
a little
It's
bit,
like,
but like, okay.
I mean, it's. I assume what he's talking about is the like when you're in the Animus and you're in sort of sci-fi land, and you get put into.
Do they do that by way of like weird texture projection that turns into the game or something? Like what?
Well, they overlay two, like they kind of blend from one
Yeah, they blend from
reality
one room
into
to
another, which I mean, is,
You're in
I
a,
guess
you're,
is a cube
yeah,
map.
you're in a, yeah.
I'm looking
that
at
instance.
Assassin's Creed cube map.
Because the thing you fade into, I think they create the illusion that it goes on forever. Like I think they create the illusion that, that it's like an endless virtual room that you're in. So that's probably what's
My favorite video game effects are actually, I don't have a specific favorite video game effect, but my favorite video game effects in execution are ones which take place sort of what I think of as, it's not actually, it's like when effects are done in film in camera, when an effect is taking place and is shot by, it's taking place in camera. It's actually happening along with the actors.
Mm-hmm.
I think the equivalent of that in video games is when really, really, really amazing effects work happens when the player has control of their avatar, when the player has control of their camera. Like fixed camera effects where, you're in a game and your character looks to the left and then the camera whips to the left, but in whipping to the left secretly turns into a cutscene camera. Yeah. And then all of the effects are just rendered the same way that they're rendered in an
in-engine cutscene.
In an in-engine cutscene, or like they could just be a video game element, or they could be a video element, like it could just be a big video. Those are not nearly as impressive to me as when you're existing in space with an amazing piece of effects work. And like the one that I always bring up because it was like I was just super struck by it was in BioShock 2 when the big sister first shows up and she slashes open all of the metal framework that's holding this huge glass window. And then all of the water splashes in. And that effect can take place, I believe, no matter where you're standing when the big sister shows up. And it's this really amazing combination of sort of solid scrolling surfaces to simulate flowing water, plus a bunch of sprite work, plus all of the dust and debris. And then when the water hits the view screen, it overlays a transparent bank video, but you can see the world through it on the inside. And then there's this real-time 3D huge water has taken over the room, and you see all the furniture has sort of leapt up off the ground because it's physics objects, and then they, I guess, turn into hand animated or like water physics objects. And then inside of that space, you can then walk out of that room inside of the water into the water environment. And all of that happens from wherever you happen to be standing, unless I'm mistaken. And just the entire scene state changes inside of a first-person camera using just every effect basically that you can do in the Unreal Engine in tandem. It was fucking impressive. I like stuff like that a lot. And it's harder to do in the games that I work on because most of our stuff is from a very heavily directed camera because it's, a weird like cinematic experience. But I love it in Telltale games, especially because it's so weird to do when people end up pulling off crazy impressive visuals and there's a guy walking around. It's the best. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's what. Also, UV scrolling is pretty sweet. I don't know.
By UV scrolling, does he just mean like the texture mapping, like moving in real time? Like, what? Is that cool?
No. What, you don't like a sweet like
a ticker tape, like a
or like when you're in Quake 3 and you see like a crazy
like the wall
overwrought grate, and then there's like some guts scrolling by underneath it. Oh, well,
doesn't that exist in like one of the
every game?
No, but like in an early Doom game, like there's like
I imagine that's how like I don't know if Doom JP would know better, but like if there's like little conduits and electricity stuff in Doom. But is that done through palette swaps or sprites more than it's done through texture scrolls?
Right. Yeah, that's a good point. Actually, in Doom, it's almost certainly.
I think Quake 1,
or it's almost certainly. Yeah.
Quake 1 has texture scrolls up from wazoo. But let's talk about UV scrolling some more.
Yeah. Anyway,
it's weird that people write me about my favorite gaming effects when I work in a studio who has a very, very, very slim effects pipeline. Like Telltale, the effects that are done at Telltale are very, very handmade. I'll say that.
Sure. Yeah.
You don't have a God Ray button like you do in Unreal. God, that fucking God Ray button.
The only reason this occurred to me is because you said you referenced the place you work, so it made me think about the place I work. I wasn't planning on bringing up a Double Fine thing, but
the Brutal Legend engine has a fucking sweet set of nice.
Yeah, we have amazing effects. We have amazing effects artists at our company, but like, in Autonomous,
that game is all effects.
I know it's all effects. That's why I bring it up. Like it was one of the Amnesia Fortnite prototypes last year. It's a first person thing where you go around and program robots in real time in the real world. And like the effects are like overbearing to some degree.
You're living inside a VCR that's been plugged into the wrong outlet, basically.
Yeah. Where just all the color separation is just like all going crazy and like everything is, I don't know what the actual term for that is. And it just really tangibly evokes that very specific feeling of just, a particular era of like video-based technology going totally haywire all the time.
Yeah.
Because it
It's like a
responds to
CRT
your
or, like,
proximity
old projection
to
TV
things
that's
and
gone
like
off.
yeah, it's very it feels very alive and living in a way that I thought was really cool. I mean, it's done to the point that it actually like interferes with you reading the UI and stuff because it's so it's so overbearing. But it was a prototype, so whatever.
Yeah, I couldn't play that game. Even though I loved looking at it, I couldn't actually get a robot to do anything.
I just loved how that stuff works.
Yeah. My favorite effects are cool ones.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, I like the point you make about that stuff always being inherently more impressive when it happens.
When you can just
when you have full control over
you're
something.
witnessing this crazy fucking thing happening, and you can just stand up closer.
I mean, I think that came up when we were talking about BioShock Infinite, and you were talking about like the thing for you that distinguished moments in that game from like the equivalent kind of huge budget movie thing. Just the fact that you have control over the camera at will when certain crazy things are going on was just like a shocking, or not shocking necessarily, but like particularly impressive.
It's guaranteed to cost more. I mean, even if the range of vision that you have is fixed in a BioShock game because you only have the size of that room, and if you turn around, you don't see the effect. But it's still way more difficult for people to execute that stuff in a game if they know that the player can fiddle with stuff.
Yeah.
It's cool. It's sweet games.
I feel like this has been a full-length podcast.
Yeah, it's weird.
Am I wrong about that?
No, it has. You should do another reader mail, though.
Okay.
Because we love reader mails.
Yeah.
Oh, wait. You know what, Chris?
I'm waiting.
If you have a reader mail, you should write it to questions@idlethumbs.net.
If I do?
Yes.
What about if our readers do?
Oh, they should write them to questions@idlethumbs.net.
Oh,
you know what? If they want to call you, they should call 55Wizard on and leave a voicemail message.
Nope. We haven't checked that in years, so don't actually call that number because we'll never see it.
If you guys back our second Kickstarter for $200,000, we'll do a 55Wizard on episode.
Kevin Mayo writes, Myst Online and Ambience. Dear Thumbs, your discussion on ambience reminded me of one of the most effective uses of changing ambient noise I've heard in a game. In the single-player version of the ill-fated Uru Ages Beyond Myst, you travel to isolated offices and balconies in the underground Denise City. And in the background, you hear the occasional banging of a hammer and other construction noises. Once you join the online mode, the city's opened up and becomes the main social hub. The construction sounds are now accompanied by murmuring crowds in the distance. Finally, after the servers were closed down and the unreleased content was made into a couple of expansion packs, you return to the city to find the construction has stopped and the crowds have disappeared, leaving only the lonely echoes of the abandoned cavern. Thanks, Kevin. It's not a question, but that was interesting.
That's really cool. Myst Online seems like it came out a little later than it probably should have, and I think that game basically bankrupted Cyan, but I really liked that they were trying really hard to be true to the fiction of the game inside of the MMO as well, and the idea was you were playing as a person who was exploring the world of Myst as discovered by normal people. So as new realms and like new chunks were being opened, the idea was that there was actually a construction crew that was excavating out to find this stuff to sort of uncover new bits, and that's where like you'd be hearing somewhere off in the world outside of the hub, there's actually people working to create the world. It was represented inside of the world by like you would be inside this weird fantastical Myst world, and then I think there were just like orange construction cones and tape and like a blinking "Don't park your car here" light. And weird, like I might be completely misremembering that because I only played the game a little bit, but that was how Cyan was presenting that, and I thought that was actually really cool.
That's pretty cool.
I imagine Myst players were probably not as enamored with that
because
the whole idea of Myst is literally representing
Yeah.
tumbling into a piece of fiction as escapism, where like your guy actually falls into a book and is in a fantastical world where you solve everything. So maybe in Myst Online, you're just a random dude who found this place, but also everyone else did, so hang out with them is less what Myst is about.
That's kind of the funny thing about MMOs in general, right? Is that I don't know, MMOs are set in an environment, and it's populated with characters that
all of whom,
in general, in fiction, are only ever represented in extreme like power fantasies where they are like the most powerful thing around. And they still try to make you feel like that, except that in the MMO version, there's always just like 8,000 of them everywhere. It's super weird.
That's what I thought was cool about Uru.
Yeah, no, I agree,
everyone in
totally.
it just dresses like a regular guy, and you're all just supposed to be people who are like, oh, hey, we found Myst. Weird. Come check it out. Like, let's all poke around in this. And I think the idea was that people would collectively work to solve puzzles and stuff, which would then eventually enable like that sort of playing through Myst as a huge group was the grinding thing that would unlock
Right.
new pieces of it. But it doesn't. They accidentally invalidated, I think, the reason that people thought Myst was cool from an
Right.
emotional standpoint.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah.
it was intellectually really interesting.
Yeah, that is cool.
But
I never played it.
Building that 3D engine and making Myst level and Riven level assets in real time 3D when they were way too many years ahead of what people were actually able to play
Right.
on their computers, I think made them burn through their amazing amount of money. Like, have you guys seen like photos of Cyan's office in the Northwest? Like
No.
after, like around Myst and Riven era, it is just like it looks like a Myst environment where it's just. Meanwhile, in the secluded woods is this crazy, like huge, like giant, like very squared off pieces of wood and glass and metal architecture, just beautiful, crazy building nestled in amongst all these pine trees that you have to walk a stupid winding path to get to and stuff.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And, you know, swivel weird spherical rocks around until animal sounds open up, and then you get the receptionist.
Were they Washington?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then that stopped happening when they dumped all of their money into an MMO that they didn't release for like a million
That's
years.
a bummer.
And then GameTap saved it. GameTap funded Uru for a while, and then GameTap funded nothing.
Yep. Cool.
Cool. Rate us on iTunes.
We've been getting up there in the iTunes list recently. It's been working.
Not nearly as well as our competing podcast, Dota Today.
Dotatoday.net.
Lord.
Dotatoday.net.
Yeah. God, we got to launch Dotato Day.
Potato Day.
Potato Day? Yeah.
All right, bye.
Bye. IdleThumbs.net.
Happy Dishonored Dotato Day.
We bought all of this stuff.
We bought some. We got
the guy
a
who
great
sold
deal.
it to us was really nice.
It's so perfect because they steal all our shit.